Due to the rapid development in the technology of safety-relevant electronic systems, new test routines have been made available by FSD in the System Data Research Application SRA since 2006. The current test routines and data are provided online by Internet and offline by DVD. A component part of the periodic technical inspection is the installation test. It will also be realized in future through the PTI-Adapter in case of heavy goods vehicles. In the current periodic technical inspection, the actual installation of electronic systems must be tested. The inspector identifies the systems by means of visible features in this case. The PTI-Adapter carries out this identification incomparably faster electronically. The trailer is integrated into the test with a special interface of the PTI-Adapter. As well as the installation test, the programmed maximum speed value is additionally read out over the diagnostics interface. If this does not exceed the legal value, the test has been passed. The initialization of the electronic systems of the tractive unit and the trailer begins with switching on the ignition. The great number of possible displays can be viewed in the SRA of the FSD if required. Both the PTI-Adapter and the initialization of the electronic systems of the vehicle indicated that an ABS is installed. With the PTI-Adapter, the wheel rotational speed sensors and steering angle sensors are now checked for plausibility during the test drive. For this, the PTI-Adapter interprets the rotation speed differences of the curved inner and outer wheels. With the aid of the steering wheel angle sensor, the wheel rotational speed sensors and the yaw rate sensor, the driving dynamics control of the vehicle with the PTI-Adapter can be checked for plausibility. During the test drive, the PTI-Adapter tests the radar sensor of the adaptive cruise control system and the emergency brake system. For this purpose, the separation distance to a standing obstacle is changed, and a plausibility check is run with the wheel rotational speed sensors and the shifted gear. With parking in the hall and the release of the brakes, the startup aid is checked for function. Then, the technical lighting equipment is checked. The electro-hydraulic additional steering was identified as early as in the installation test. With the additional axle lowered, attention is paid to reverse motion and blocking action of the steering. The PTI-Adapter checked this procedure over the measured values of the steering angle sensors on the axles. The control check of the steering foreplay must be carried out by hand. After control check of the vehicle identity numbers and the registration number plate, the optical test of the external operational state of the vehicle begins. The detailed visual inspection serves for the early identification of significant defects in the commercial road vehicle during the periodic technical inspection. Visible damage to electrical cables, component parts and compressed air lines are determined as defects. After the connection of the pressure gauges or the electronic pressure gauges with PTI-Adapter and interface, the test of the brake system can be started. A sudden change of pressure is caused by the least pedal movement. The pressure gauges must indicate a pressure pulse of approximately 0.3 bar. This pressure pulse shows that the electronic path is functioning and that the functional chain is intact. Otherwise, there is a defect present. In case of uniform actuation of the brake pedal, a uniform pressure distribution can be identified on the pressure gauges. Pressure jumps and/or nonlinear curved plots indicate that one or more solenoid valves are defective. The determination of the braking forces of the individual axles of the tractive unit and the trailer begins on the roller brake tester. If no reference values are available for the vehicle to be tested, a two-point prediction is carried out. The measured braking forces in case of lightly depressed pedal and immediately before the blocking limit result in a linear function, which is then extrapolated to the calculation pressure. The sum of the braking forces of all axles at calculation pressure with reference to the permissible total weight of the vehicle results in the possible braking rate. If this braking rate is above the value required by law, the performance test of the wheel brakes has been passed. Considerably simpler is the evaluation of the brake power, evaluation of the braking performance with the aid of the PTI-Adapter and vehicle-related brake reference values. The inspector activates the operating brake with arbitrary forces below the blocking limit. The braking forces are measured as usual on the test stand. The braking pressures, on the other hand, are registered by the brake pressure sensors contained in the modulators and transmitted to the PTI-Adapter via the OBD unit. The relationship of the two values to each other enables a statement about whether a sufficient braking performance is achieved for the respective axle. In order to check this, the results are compared with the reference values. If the measured values are in the specified range, the distribution of the braking forces over the axles and wheels is in order, and the necessary braking rate for the vehicle is then verified. As a result of the axle-related evaluation of the braking forces, the reference value method represents an increase of the test quality. The pressure build-up test and redundancy check on the trailer requires from the inspector the replugging of all pressure gauges and, if required, the supply of compressed air. The recording of the braking forces is based on the same process as in case of the tractive unit. An interface to the PTI-Adapter allows a partial automation of the test in this case as well. By means of the PTI-Adapter, a control pressure is applied to the trailer and the braking pressure is simultaneously measured with the electronic pressure gauges. In this case also, the measured braking forces values are compared with the stored reference values braking pressure related and evaluated. In order to ensure the function of the brake system, fault-free functioning of the compressed air supply system must be guaranteed. For this purpose, the individual system components, such as, for example, compressor, compressed air reservoir, pressure protection valve and trailer control valve are tested within the framework of the periodic technical inspection. For the test of the endurance brake, the FSD follows the specifications of the manufacturers and with that checks the electronic functional chain. The exhaust brake as well as the eddy current brake are always active as wear-free brakes in normal operation of heavy goods vehicles. This means that with the pushing of the brake pedal, the endurance brake generally comes into effect before the wheel brake additionally supplies braking power to standstill. The vehicle is lifted to or lowered from the driving level with the operating device of the electronic air suspension in order to check the function of the system and the optical displays. With the aid of the PTI-Adapter, the activation of individual light functions is possible. Using a menu, the corresponding functions are selected and optically checked by the inspector. The SRA can be employed by the inspector as a modern reference work for the test. By no means does it represent a mandatory sequence in the test steps. As up to now, the German inspectors should stipulate and structure their individual test sequences as well as the integration of the individual test steps dependent on the motor vehicle type and testing location. Today, more than 400,000 persons are injured annually in road traffic accidents in Germany alone. In the year 2009, a total of 4,160 persons died on the roads. The number of accidents is still far above 2 million a year. In the 21st century, however, accident victims must no longer pay the price for mobility. The greatest potential for accident avoidance in the 21st century lies in the development of vehicle technology, a technology which helps to compensate for errors made by the driver or another traffic participant. The Federal Highway Research Institute has determined in a study that up to 70% of all serious accidents can be avoided simply with the installation of driver assistance systems already developed and currently available on the market. To be considered, however, is that possible defects in such driver assistance systems, because of lack of maintenance or even because of manipulation by the driver, cannot be compensated at all, or only with difficulty. The vehicle technology and its condition over the entire vehicle lifetime are of increasingly greater importance and are really elementary factors for traffic safety and thus are necessary for sustainable automobility in the 21st century. The German PTI inspectors will make an important contribution to this with a modern periodic technical inspection.